Parkcast, the UK's original theme park podcast.
Welcome back to Parkcast, park fans. This is your podcast. If you are a theme park fan, you are in the right place. I'm Bex, this is Kev.
Hey everyone.
And we like to chat about all the goings on in the theme park world, the UK theme park world, and occasionally overseas as well. Big news in our little community this week, of course, was that Kingda is definitely shut. It's closed. It's gone. It's going to be melted down into goodness knows what.
And it's not going to be moved to Blackpool either.
I did see someone suggest that as a rumour. Yeah, I don't.
You did mention it once before, so it could happen.
Hey, there's another episode for you.
There you go. That's true. That's very true.
Dodgy theme park rumours that have been brought about by enthusiasts. Sad news about Kingda. Be interesting to see what is going on in that area. Clearly, there's some big plans afoot, so we'll keep our eyes on that for you.
Yeah, they're rumoured to be investing a lot of money into their parks as well, haven't they? So that'll be interesting.
Investing money in parks?
I know. It's exciting.
Who'd have thought?
Someone is desperate to buy it from them, so all that money they're getting from it, they'll be investing across all their parks across the US, hopefully.
Hopefully. But
it is sad. It is sad when it's such a big, iconic roller coaster that it was the world's tallest. I still remember watching it all over the news when it opened and all the information online about this new record-breaking roller coaster, and it was impressive. I remember seeing Stealth for the first time, and I was impressed. Right,
it's so tall.
And it was like seeing the big one first time, seeing Stealth for the first time, and being like, "Whoa, it's insane!"
Yeah.
But then when Kingda opened, it was something else.
Yeah.
Like, this is big. Like, I remember watching the documentary about it, and it was impressive. And, the people I know that have been on it have always, raved about it. It's like one of those coasters you almost have to do because it's the tallest in the world and just for the sheer launch and everything.
Yeah.
So it is sad. It's sad to lose an iconic coaster. So that begs the question then. So what now is the tallest roller coaster in the world then?
Well, there's some debate about this because obviously there's one that's standing but not currently operating. What I'm hearing, we're declaring that Red Force at Ferrari Land in Spain is currently the world's tallest, and
well, there you go.
There you go. Currently being on the world's the tallest coaster. There's a bit of debate about what we're classing as the world's tallest coaster.
Mm-hmm.
In my books, currely, it's that for me.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Okay.
We'll
get over to Spain before that one closes. Really.
Well, they're dropping like flies. Will Stealth even make it to 2025 at this rate? We're not too sure.
No.
It's definitely one to be watching, and it is one that we're going to be chatting about on a future episode. What is going on with these hydraulic launch coasters, especially these really tall ones? Such a shame that we are losing them, and is there light at the end of the tunnel, or are we just moving on and we're forgetting all about them now? That's definitely a future episode for us.
Definitely.
Also, happy Winter Wonderland Day to anyone who celebrates, which opened last night, of course, in London. Not something I'll be going down to because kind of my idea of hell on earth, but I don't know, a lot of people will enjoy it, especially over the closed season. Lots of rides that you can get on if you don't mind being crammed in like sardines and paying £10 for a hot dog or something like that.
That might be someone's festive fun for the year.
It's my idea of a great day out.
Whereas I think we'll be booking in to go into Thomas Land and Drayton Manor for our theme park Christmas fix.
These days, that's where we're at to. Right, talking of theme parks over winter, it brings us nicely onto this week's episode. And we are going to be pitting two parks against each other. Two of our favourite parks. We are putting them head to head because they're both parks that you can visit over this winter 2024.
Parkcast.
So on this week's episode, we're going head to head, and we're in the red corner and the blue corner. We're pitting two of our favourite parks against each other, basically because it's winter, it's closed season in the UK. We haven't cottoned on to the fact yet that 365 opening is a really good thing, not just for enthusiasts, for everyone, for families. So we have to go over to Europe. I mean, we don't have much choice. If we want a coaster fix, that's basically what we've got to go and do.
That's it.
And if you've got young kids like we have, there's a lot of options, but there's a couple of options that I think really stand out, and they are like the go-to parks if you've got a young child. And we are talking Disneyland Paris, and we are talking Efteling. And I thought it'd be quite fun to kind of pit the two against each other, because there is often some chat about whether Efteling is a good alternative to Disneyland Paris for families who are maybe looking to go to a theme park. Maybe they're getting a little bit priced out of Disney. And does Efteling compare, and will it do the same job? In my view, Efteling does it better. And I know, Kev, from your point of view, you're a big Disneyland Paris fan.
Yeah.
So I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of go through what both parks have to offer, and see if they are, much of a muchness, or where we kind of stand with them, and which one might be a good option for you if you are looking to take a little winter theme park trip with the family. So to start off with, let's just do a very quick overview of what each park has to offer. Kev, do you want to go first with Disneyland Paris?
Well, I thought I was going to let you go first, as Efteling is the older park. So,
and I'm the older host of the show.
And
okay, well, we know Efteling. It's in the Netherlands. It's a very beautiful, magical park on a scale which is only, kind of comparable to Alton Towers in terms of how big the park is. It's been open since 1952, opened at the end of May, and it's got about 5.5 million visitors a year. It's only about 190 miles from Calais, so it's not too far to get to. And it's got some of the best themed attractions I have ever seen. You've got a load of great family attractions, indoor dark rides, loads of rides that even really, really small kids can go on. But you've also got stuff for real thrill seekers. Like, you've got Baron with a number after his name, which I'm not going to say because I cannot do the Dutch, which is your Oblivion equivalent, but it's like Oblivion on themed steroids. It's crazy, crazy good.
One of the best roller coaster theming I've ever seen.
Oh, it's just insane. It is absolutely insane. But it's not just that ride that they do that on. There's so many rides where they go to that level of detail, and obviously we can talk about that. And I just think it's really good value, and it's really easy to get to, and you will have a great time if you take a family there, particularly if you've got kids under 10. That is my case, Your Honour.
Very good. Let's get ready to rumble. That's what I was thinking in my head. I think it's an unfair duel because actually both are insanely good. But there we go. So Disneyland Paris opened in April 1992, and it was the fourth Disney park resort to open after Anaheim, Orlando, and Tokyo. It's regarded to many as the most beautiful of the Magic Kingdoms in its design and its theming and how it looks. And Disneyland Paris is home to many iconic and classic original Disneyland attractions, such as your Big Thunder Mountain, Pirates of the Caribbean, It's a Small World, Haunted Mansion, Space Mountain, Peter Pan's Flight, etc. But all bringing their own unique European twist to each one of those, such as the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland Paris is actually Phantom Manor. Okay, but still within the same DNA of that attraction. Disneyland Paris also has a second gate, Walt Disney Studios, which opened in 2002, which is home to some other kind of classic Disney attractions, such as the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, which is probably up there as one of my favorite attractions of all time. It's going through a lot of changes as Walt Disney Studios in a minute, and it's being changed into Disney Adventure World, so it'll soon be home to Frozen and Lion King, but also has just had Avengers Campus open. And the great thing with Disneyland Paris is its location, and it's very easy accessible, and it's the perfect park for all ages, whether you've got babies, toddlers, kids, teenagers, adults, grandparents. Because it's Disney, full of IPs that your children and grandparents will recognize, it's that kind of perfect environment if you love Star Wars or Marvel, or if you are classic Disney animation, Pixar, it's got everything that you could possibly need.
Thank you for making your case
Your
for the
Honor.
prosecution. You know when I said a quick 2-minute summary?
That was 2 minutes. I counted it. I was timing it.
Okay, right. I think the best way to do this is if we go through like each kind of offering that the park has in sections. So we'll start with the rides because that's the most important thing. We are roller coaster enthusiasts. We are theme park enthusiasts, and rides are a big part of why we choose to go to parks. Would you care to take the case for Disneyland Paris on the rides?
Okay, so in terms of roller coasters, you've got your Space Mountain, although it's known as Hyperspace Mountain at the moment, so it has a Star Wars overlay.
Did you prefer it with or without?
Without, yeah, without.
Like the OG.
Sadly, it still looks like Space Mountain, and it has a few banners hanging down with the Star Wars bit, and there's a few bits in the queue line, and has an Star Wars audio throughout, but it's only like Space Mountain that goes upside down. And at the time, it had this launch lift that kind of shoots you out of a cannon, so it's very impressive to look at from the outside. It's very intense, and it does go upside down, and it's inside. It's dark, which is great. And in Avengers Campus as well, you've got what was Rock and Roller Coaster with Aerosmith. It's now Avengers Assemble Flight Force, so same track layout. But just with your Marvel overlay, which is, again, has this great launch at the start, has a few inversions in it. So another indoor roller coaster. But really, and even John Wardley mentioned this, so I'm going to add this into my case. John Wardley said in his interview, he's just got to ride it, was Big Thunder Mountain. And
at Disneyland Paris?
He said all of them, but I think the one at Paris is always regarded as the best version of Big Thunder Mountain, because it has its own island to itself. So you start in the station, but you go under the water. So you go down this great drop to start with, then you go up a lift hill in the mountain, and the rest of the ride is on its own island in Frontierland. So Big Thunder Mountain is the focal point of in Frontierland. Get a long ride on it, and it's great for families, and it does have some intense moments. There's some great head chopper moments, and a fantastic roller coaster for sure.
Good. I've noticed that you mentioned quite a few like overlays. Obviously, Space Mountain's had one, and Rock and Roller Coaster's had one. Is that something that, like, do you think is going to happen to Big Thunder Mountain in the end as well?
I wouldn't think so, no. I wouldn't think so. I think with Space Mountain, it was always a case of, because it's an indoor one, you can change the theming quite easily on an indoor coaster, I think. Same with Rock and Roller Coaster. It's designed around a recording studio, and now you're in, the Avengers kind of facility, and there's a fantastic Iron Man animatronic that moves, and if you know Disney animatronics, they are just top tier in terms of the fluidity and how they move. So if you're a bit of a superhero nerd like me, just being in Avengers Campus and seeing things like that it's really magical. But with Big Thunder Mountain, I think it's one of those classic Disney. I think there's certain attractions like that. There are Walt Disney originals that you're kind of like, do not touch it. I know Pirates of the Caribbean is slightly controversial on that side with adding like Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow in. That was a big controversial thing.
What about the Tower of Terror? Because obviously
So in Anaheim, so in the California version was changed to Guardians of the Galaxy. It had a subtle change to the Paris version, but for the better in my opinion. It still keeps the Twilight Zone theme, but this time they've done randomized drop sequences. I know we talked about last week about how you don't like drop towers because not knowing when the drop is.
The surprise.
Whereas I got very used to where the drops were, so on the original. But then they updated it, and I remember going on it after that and getting a great shock because I thought it was going to go back and then up, and it just dropped. So there we go. So yeah, so Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, potentially, I don't know if they'll do it in Paris. There was always
Would you be
rumors.
sad?
I would, yeah, I would be very much sad, even though I do like Guardians of the Galaxy. But the Twilight Zone theme, it just works so well. And if you're like me and you like that kind of spooky, haunted theming, it works incredibly well and makes it a lot scarier as well.
I also
So if
think
there's
it's
a ride
nice.
I want to take you on, that is the one.
Really?
Drop
A drop
towers
tower, dark
and
ride,
scary
horror.
theme.
Yeah.
I'm there. You know.
Yeah. Just cruel, really. Yeah, I also think it's nice for Disney to have their own IP in a way in the parks, rides that only exist in the parks that don't have a theme, that aren't, being lent an IP from a film or something like that. It's nice to have those. No, this is a Disney park ride and attraction that has got a lot of heritage and everyone still loves it because they're just as good. You don't need the film for those things to be great rides. And I just think you see it creeping in a little bit more and more with Disney changing things. And it's like they think to be popular now, it's got to be linked to a film,
I think there's that potential, isn't there, that you're drawing people in because of that. I mean, when Disney bought the rights for Marvel and Star Wars, I think it opened up this whole opportunity for them. I mean, the fact that they've got Rise of the Resistance over in America at both Disney parks, is regarded as the best dark ride ever. It's a Star Wars theme, so it's still classed as the best dark ride ever. Just because it's Star Wars doesn't, it's a way of getting people there. But it's what you do. But looking at dark rides, I think Disney's always regarded as some of the best dark rides out there. And Disneyland Paris is full of dark rides, and all very very different. If you want Pirates of the Caribbean, it's your boat ride. You've got the Phantom Manor, which is your Omni Mover system. You've got Ratatouille, which is your trackless dark ride. And you've got things like It's a Small World, again, which is your boat ride.
I guess little kids can go on all of those as well. You've got quite a lot for them.
There's something for everyone when it comes to dark rides as well. And it's a great way of working up as well. So you have young children, It's a Small World is your kind of classic to start with. And then you can build up to the more scarier, more mature kind of themed, dark rides at Disney.
Is there a lot of walking in between the attractions, or they're fairly close to each other?
There is at Disneyland, yeah. But because it's so beautifully themed, there's always something to look at. You're not walking through dead space, basically, to get somewhere. Everything you're going to, there is something to see or do. So there is always something to immerse you in, whether it's music or there's character meet and greets or there's entertainment going on, which we can come to later. There is always something happening. And your focal point is obviously your Disneyland Castle. So there is a lot of walking to do at Disneyland, for sure. But I think it's part of the experience as you walk. And what I love about, Disneyland as well as, any theme park that does this is that distinct change from area to area. So you're very aware that this is now this themed area. You're now leaving Main Street. You're now going into Frontierland. And it's quite obvious what each kind of themed area is.
What would you say then is your one standout ride? If you go into Disneyland Paris, do not skip on it, like make it a priority to get on it.
If we're talking about Disneyland Park, it would always be Big Thunder Mountain. I would always make that top of the list to do on that side of it. And in studios, of course, I'd have to say Twilight Zone, Tower of Terror. It combines two things for me, and that's why it's always top of my list. Because I'm a roller coaster fan and a dark ride fan, it combines both of those things. So if you love that immersive dark ride element theming, that Twilight Zone theme where there's cobwebs hanging over everything, the music, the ambient music playing, it builds the tension. It's very spooky in there. But also the actual ride system itself is something else. You're on an elevator going up and down, and you're traveling faster than gravity. So you're literally bum off your seat, going up and down. So you're getting the thrill. So you're getting both of those things on that ride. So I would put that up there as well.
Okay. I think, we cannot deny Disneyland Paris has some great attractions, some amazing family attractions, some beautifully themed attractions. Let's just move over to Efteling though, because I see your dark rides, I see your themed attractions,
I knew
and I
this was
raise
coming.
you
Hmm.
Symbolica, which has got to be, apart from maybe Rise of the Resistance, but we're not comparing it to Walt Disney World in America.
No,
We're
that's true.
talking Disneyland Paris.
That's true.
One of the most epically, beautifully themed dark rides ever to existed. It's a trackless dark ride, so you don't know where you're going. It looks like you are floating over the floor. And there's three different ways that your ride could go. You choose which path you'd like to take, and you can choose it. You're not randomly allocated it, so that if you queue up 3 times, you can make sure you get all three options. When you talk about being immersed in a dark ride, it is just the most incredibly beautifully done ride. It's amazing. I don't want to spoil anything because I do think it's one of those rides that you just have to go and ride and experience. But you do, and I'm someone who doesn't get swept up in false worlds very easily. Like I'm a very like straight down the line kind of person. But with that ride, I absolutely do. I absolutely do. And again, it's all ages can go on it. You can go on it as a family. You can get like 6 people in a ride car, so you can all sit as a family on it. And it's just lovely. It's amazing. It's a really, really special ride. When that ride opened, I think it was Efteling really going, we are here and we are competing on this level.
Yeah.
We are not going anywhere. And then obviously this year, having got already the best dark ride probably in Europe, they've now just opened Dance Macabre, which
Looks
obviously I've not been,
incredible.
yeah, neither of us have been on it,
Absolutely
but
incredible.
just
I think it's one of those rides you have to be on to kind of completely get it because obviously how the system moves. But the theme is just, it is like, I'm going to give it like top tier. When you think of Disney
yeah,
Universal,
yeah.
Efteling definitely has the up there, that top tier theming. I will give it that for sure.
Yeah, it's something that we've not seen before. It's very unique. I don't think, like you say, I don't think any YouTube POV or any footage that anyone's managed to get from it will do it any justice. I think it's one of those things you've got to ride, but they just do dark rides so well there. And the great thing about these dark rides is they're suitable for the family. So, you can go on it as a family. And it's replaced something which it used to be. It was called like Spooks a lot, and it was just a little, I say walkthrough. It was a really weird. Efteling has these little weird sections to it where you think it's just a path, and then you go in there, and there's some random like animatronics and a little button to press, and things are making music, and it all kind of adds to this magical atmosphere. And it was one of those. It was just a way of getting from one side of the park to the other. So they've sort of took that out and then have put in this incredible looking dark ride, which I for one cannot wait to go and ride. I think it looks
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
I think that's what makes a good ride is something that takes you out
Yeah,
and puts you somewhere else so that you, like you were saying about symbolic, it's that sort of thing, isn't it? Where you're at a theme park, but if it's
yeah,
able to physically take you out of that and you're in a
yeah,
whole nother world, another place for that moment, I think that for me personally is what makes something, a fantastic ride that's able to do that.
yeah. Should say as well, Dance Macabre it's made by Intamin, so good quality. It's a brand new product from them. Dynamic motion stage is what they're calling it. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney get one of these at a park in the future. They do like to sort of look at things like this and go, "Oh, that looks interesting," and kind of
Yeah.
Efteling do it, and then Disney
Yeah.
go, "Ooh,
Well,
maybe."
Efteling also started something else, didn't they, from Vekoma? They did the first.
Madhouse, yeah, the first Madhouse, which I'm gonna say isn't the best example of a madhouse out there, but it is the original one, and if you're there, you should go and ride it. It's got a bit of a lengthy pre-show, which drags on. But I'm not going into that because I'm making the case for Efteling. Okay, positive. I see what
Yeah.
you've done there.
Oh, it's like
I'm,
change direction there.
I'm going positives only. So yeah, so dark rides are great. There's also another dark ride which you've probably heard of called, my Dutch is going to be atrocious here, Droomvlucht. it means dream flight. Imagine I said that in Dutch. And it's really old, and it's like a suspended dark ride. But you just, again, you get taken into this fairy world. And if you've got little girls, Kev, they will not believe what they are seeing on that ride. It is just the most magical thing. And when you look at your kids' faces and they see this little fairy world that they are flying through, it's incredible. Like I said, it's not just about dark rides there. You've got stuff for all the family. You've got your big B&M dive coaster, which the queue line, the pre-show, everything, again, immerses you into this world. You feel like you're going down a mine shaft, which is what that ride is themed to. It's done so well. One of the rides actually at Efteling, which again does this really well, is the water coaster, which it looks really inconspicuous. You can see a little bit of the actual water coaster track from the outside, and it's not very long. That bit's fairly short. But the queue line itself is like through almost like cobbled alleyways inside, and then it opens out into the station, which is, it's like a harbor at night, and there's like twinkling candles, and you feel like you are in a village harbor, but at nighttime, and again, you're just totally immersed in it. It's amazing, and it's not one of those rides that gets talked about a lot, but when you're in it, you're like, the thought that has gone into this ride station is just insane. It's next level. Again, roller coaster wise, we've got to mention Python, which is
like the old corkscrew. Old corkscrew.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it always reminded me of, is the old shake, rattle and roll. If you fancy,
it's actually the smoothest Vekoma that I think I've ever been on.
Say that again. Sorry, I didn't quite understand what you just said then.
Smooth and Vekoma, one sentence. No, honestly, it got retracked in 2018, so I'm not sure how rideable it was before then. But now, it's really, really smooth. One minor downfall is it has the world's slowest lift hill. Like, I genuinely don't know what they do with their lift hill setting on it, but you're going, why is this taking so long? It takes forever. So its throughput is dreadful. But it's if you like your classic roller coasters, it's a good one to get on.
And there's a Woody as well, isn't there?
There is a Woody. Efteling. There's a dueling Woody, better than Stampeder. Yeah.
Okay.
The trouble with Efteling is all these rides have Dutch names, and I'm going to try and pronounce.
You're trying to say each one of them.
She said
the
what?
beauty of Disneyland Paris is obviously because of where it is, they're trying to have to accommodate for all of these different languages. So most of it's pretty much in English.
I know.
So apart from the odd few which are in French, and again, I will not try and butcher the French language.
The French would go down better with me than the Dutch. I'm just going to call the dueling wooden coaster Joris, and we'll leave it there. And one I can say is Vogelrok, which is an indoor coaster, which again, I actually expect most enthusiasts are a bit like me. It's just an indoor coaster. I genuinely love Vogelrok. I think it is an absolutely great little coaster. It's got loads of speed to it. It's in the dark. Occasionally you get a flash of a massive eagle in your face. And it's just fun. And the throughput on that thing is insane. And again, it's something I rank highly when it comes to my coaster choices, is how good the throughput is and how quickly that queue line moves. And that moves really quickly. So yeah, definitely a big fan of that. And again, there is absolutely loads in that park. If you have young children, there's whole fairy tale sections of rides, of carousels and little roundabouts and things that they can go on. And they're everywhere. They're dotted all around the park. So it's not like, oh, there's the kids section and they can only go there, which we tend to find a little bit, especially at parks in this country. If you think like CBeebies Land, that's where all the small children's attractions are. So if you want to go over to Forbidden Valley, there's nothing that your toddler can go on in Forbidden Valley.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Whereas in Efteling, they're dotted around a bit more. It is a big park to walk around, so it is on an Alton Towers scale.
I was going to say, Bex, how many days would you need to explore Efteling at its fullest?
I think you need 2, depending on how busy it is, possibly 3. So if it was really busy and you didn't want to just be like non-stop, right, queue, 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 I think you could do a really nice leisurely visit over 3 days. I've done it in two, and I've also done it in one. Now that I did it in two, I can now do it in one because there's certain
Okay.
things that I'm like, I don't need to do that again, or I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Um,
But on your
but
first visit,
on
say
your
if
first
people
visit, two
listening
or
have never
three.
been before.
Yeah, I would say 2 or 3 days. We'll get onto hotels, but if you do stay at a hotel there, you get 2 days entry included. So
That's
that's
good.
quite good. Oh, and one thing not to miss if you are
Mm.
a bit of a geek, is there's a steam powered carousel there still.
Oh, classic.
Indoor carousel, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Very
that's
nice.
it is very nice. And if you like your kind of historical things, it's nice that they keep something like that going. And
Mm.
it's quite unique
Yeah.
and quite special to have that there. It's not all about the rides. With two parks that are as big and as high regarded as this, there's obviously a loads more for you, if especially if you're not a rides kind of
Mm.
person. It's not all about that. And that's the beauty of these two parks. I think
Yeah.
there's plenty to do if rides are not your thing. So if we go on to other things other than rides that these parks have to
Mm.
offer, so Efteling, along with the main theme park, you've got this whole sort of fairy tale forest area, which you
Mm.
could spend a day wandering around that if you really wanted to. It's a bit like the Alton Towers Gardens. It just goes on and on and on, and you take a different turn, and you're in a whole other place you didn't even know
Mm.
existed. And dotted through there is loads of animatronics and stories and storybook characters and things like that. So that's a really great thing to go in and see and wander around if you don't like rides. You've also got, if you've got small children, a load of play areas. They're all just dotted around in all
Well, they're
again
nicely
all sections
themed
of the
as well.
park. Yeah, they
Like for a
really
play
are.
area, you know.
Yeah. So that's really great. In terms of shows and stuff like that, it's not something that they major on. It's not a huge thing for them. They're more about attractions and experiences and things like that rather than shows. So it's not really the place for that. And I have mentioned it on the podcast before, and I don't think it would be classed as a ride. But there is a boat
Hmm.
trip that you can go on.
Yeah.
It's not a ride, it's a boat. You're in a boat outside, and you just kind of
Mm.
go for a nice little meander around a big lake, and that takes
Mm.
about 25 minutes. So that's
Like the
again,
old swan boats at Alton Towers. And you used to
yeah.
sit on it and be like, am I getting off yet? Oh no, I'm going this way now. Oh, I thought I was getting off.
There it is that. But if you've got people with you, grandparents, or if you've got grandparents who are kindly volunteering to look after your very youngest child or something like that, if you've got a new baby, it's something that they can go on and they can entertain themselves on whilst you're off maybe doing some of the other attractions. So you are not going to be bored of things to do.
Mm.
And also, like I said, just randomly through the park, there are just dotted these little bits and things to look at. And even the bins at Efteling are like a thing. They're an attraction. They speak to you. You put rubbish in them, and they talk back to you. And that's kind of the level of detail that they have there.
Hmm.
That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
that I love it. You could go
Yeah.
there and ride no rides and have a perfectly nice day out there.
Yeah. I guess it's similar with Disneyland as well, because you obviously have your daily parades on the big
Yeah,
floats that come down
yeah.
Main Street, and
That's very
with the
special and very,
music, and oh, it's very Disney with all
yeah.
the characters. You got mix of Pixar and the animation studios characters and the princesses, and if you've got children, it's very magical. It's done because the actors and people interact with the children and they wave, and so you've got those shows going on, like depending on what time of year you're there. There's all sorts of different productions going on off different stages, and particularly in front of where the castle is, and that's all very magical. And you can be a guy in your 30s and more than happy to sing along. Not saying who,
From
but I'm
personal
not. I'm not
experience,
ashamed to say I've sung along to the parade songs, and
you would be on those floats given
I
half
would.
a chance. You would be
I'd
at the front.
maybe I'll be Peter Pan. Disneyland Paris. I don't speak French, but I'm more than happy to be Peter Pan for you if you need some. We worked there for a few years. But yeah, so you've got the parades, and they're very magical. And then you've got your nighttime fireworks shows as well.
Yeah.
And the drone show, which is impressive, just blows your mind how they do these things. But you've got these every night. So every day you've got parades, every day you've got shows, every day you've got fireworks to end the day. And they brought back Disney Dreams as well, which is one of the best fireworks shows they've done, in my personal opinion. And you just get emotional just watching with the Disney music and the fireworks, and you've got your children there, and it's like, someone that's grown up as a child at theme parks. Your kids are there doing the same thing, and you're at the Disney park, and they're, just their faces, and it's beautiful. It's very emotional. It was emotional before I had kids. just like, oh,
you just
tears.
stood at the front crying as like a 25-year-old man.
Circle of Life comes on, and it's like tears. And if you love meeting characters, Disneyland Paris is the place to be. If you want to meet Stitch or Mickey and Minnie, and you want to meet Alice in Wonderland, Cheshire Cat's new this year. So you've got all of these things. There's Princess Pavilion if you're happy to wait 3 hours to meet Belle.
Is that how long it takes?
Well, it depends. It depends. Again, I'm not trying to bring negatives into this, but
I need to ask a question on this, because I saw a debate happening online, and I'd like to get your opinion. Is it acceptable for adults to wait in the character queue, and then for the rest of the family to join that adult who's been queuing at the last minute? Or would you say no, if the kids want to meet, then the kids need to be waiting in the queue?
Well, this is in Europe, so anything goes, Bex.
I know.
Anything goes. I don't think we have, but I'm sure there are other people who probably have. Best thing I'd say is if you have magic hours, so if you're staying at the hotels and you get magic hours and you can be there early, most people tend to go to Princess Pavilion straight away, because it's probably the busiest queue of the day than any of the attractions.
And you get to meet all the princesses there, I'm guessing.
No. Oh. There's just two normally.
So you queue 3 hours and you meet two princesses. Oh no.
Yeah. So I know my older two would say they wouldn't do it again.
Oh, right.
So they've done it.
Yeah.
But I think they were happy to wait like 10, 15 minutes to meet other characters. I mean, other characters do take longer. So if you want to go meet Mickey Mouse, you might have to wait an hour. Stitch, if you want to meet Stitch, you're going to have to go there first thing, because that can get to like 2 hours as well, just to meet Stitch as well.
I heard Jack Skellington as well, because he's only there at Halloween.
Yeah.
And if you want to go and meet him, that's like mental, isn't it?
Yeah, so friends of ours have just been over Halloween, actually. And what Disneyland Paris sometimes do as well is they'll do secret character meet and greets as well.
Oh.
So they're not advertised, they kind of just appear. So friends of ours managed to, see Oogie Boogie.
Nice.
Because obviously the Jack Skellington and Sally were by Phantom Manor, but then they just bring them out. Like, they don't announce they're going to do it. I don't think they managed to meet, but they got to see it.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden then everyone's just like, wow. So, but in terms of like, forgetting the having to queue for meeting characters, I think it's just part of the Disney experience. I think it's the case of a lot of this stuff you're going to queue. It's just part of it. And whether that's, you're going to have to maybe wait half an hour before the parade starts to make sure you've got a good spot so you can see. You're going to have to get early to meet certain characters. I think, I'm obviously we're comparing Efteling and obviously, but I think like with Disneyland, a lot of what you do at a Disney park is you have to really plan ahead, really think about which characters are priority, which rides are priority, because you don't want to just, okay, let's do Princess Pavilion. You get there and it's like your last day and it's 3 hours.
Yeah. Does it ever start to feel a bit like a chore with this is what sort of puts me off a little bit, is the amount of planning and we'll do this at 10 o'clock and we'll have to do this at 12 and this, or do you just kind of get swept up in this bubble and it just becomes very normal very quickly?
I think we normally get swept up in it.
Yeah.
But I'm a planner anyway.
He's got his Excel spreadsheet.
Well, yeah. Well, I know. Well, even if we're going to Drayton Manor, or if we're going to Legoland or wherever with the kids, it's always good to have a bit of an idea, thinking, okay, girls, what do you want to do first?
Yeah.
What do you want to go to first? Maybe do this first because this bit will be quieter, and they'll come back to that later. A lot of it does take a bit of that kind of thought.
And one thing, of course, Disney do really well is their shows. Like they are West
Yeah.
End level
Hmm.
sort of shows in some cases.
Yeah.
And
Again, it's
again,
just something else to immerse you in.
yeah,
It really is. You don't even realize the time. You're just there and you're, watching your kids' reactions and, but your inner child is just smiling away because it's stuff that you remember as a kid and songs from your childhood watching Disney films at the cinema and at home. So, yeah, the shows as well are just next level.
clearly both parks offering lots of non-ride experiences in different ways, and very much depends on if you want to go for that full-on Disney experience. And if you do and you want to meet Disney characters, obviously you're only going to get that at Disneyland. You're not going to be able to
Hmm.
replicate that anywhere else. Um, uh, Obviously, we've talked about both these parks being more than one day parks. So when you go and visit them, really,
Hmm.
you're going to need somewhere to stay. And they have various options. So Disneyland Paris, that's got several hotels. Do you tend to stay at the on-site hotels, or would you rather go off-site?
We've always stayed at on-site accommodation just because the convenience of it, really, because with having children, it's so helpful, where you're located, and getting to and from the park. You've obviously got your high-end
Hmm.
hotel, like the Disneyland Hotel, which is right on the park entrance. And
Have
so
you ever
you've got
stayed
your.
there?
No, I have not.
It's one of those, you
I
look at it and
have
you look
not.
at the zeros at the end, you're like, whoa, okay.
I'm more about the experience I'm getting at the park than at a
Yeah.
hotel.
It's a bed, isn't
And
it?
at the end of the day, you're going to spend most of your time in the park. Now, if you've
Yeah.
got children, you might want to come back to the hotel to have a break. You might go in the pool, and that's okay, So, but really, it doesn't matter too much. And I'd rather have money to spend in the park
Yeah.
and actually staying for longer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I can get 5 days rather than two.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Which would be your preference for staying in with young children?
I think it depends on your price budget. I
Mm.
really do. I think all the hotels are accommodating. I think sadly for us though, as a 5-person family, Disneyland doesn't offer as many. Um, you'd have to get adjoining rooms, sadly.
So
So
then you
you
pay
do
for
have
two.
the Davy Crockett Ranch, which is cabins.
Yeah.
That is where you have to drive
Yeah.
from there to the park entrance,
And self-catering.
which is what we and yeah, self catering, which we've done before. But you do get you can get your food vouchers included and or paid for. So we always do, you know, breakfast and one meal food
Yeah.
vouchers. And then we bring a suitcase full of other things with us because we've driven. We've driven down, so we just bring a suitcase that's just got food in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Little
Yeah.
tip for you there if you're driving. Bring
Yeah,
a suitcase
definitely.
full of snacks for your kids.
Snacks.
So, but I think all the hotels really, offer that kind of accommodation where you are maybe 10-15 minute walk to the park entrance. Depending where you're staying, unless you're staying in the Disneyland Hotel and you're right at the very entrance. But obviously that's your premium, that's your
Yeah, yeah.
high-end hotel
Yeah.
to stay in, but it's, very magical,
Yeah.
to stay in. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think in terms of Efteling, they've got, again, several options ranging from a higher option, and they're opening a brand new one actually in 2025. That's the Efteling Grand Hotel, so I think that's going to be the most premium one.
mhm.
And then there's lower budget options as well. There's Loungeland where I've stayed before, which for you would be great because they have 5-6 person
Amazing.
rooms, and they're kind of got like double beds underneath and then these little bunks which kind of go over the top, but they have their own little curtains
Mm.
to sort of enclose them in, which I think for little kids is dead exciting, that they feel like they're in their own little den up there, which is really nice. And again, they've got like houses, lodges, and then just the normal Efteling hotel. as well. So there's various options there. Again, like you say, it depends on your price point, really.
Yeah.
Of course, you've also got options which are slightly off-site. So at Efteling, there's you can look at parks called Landau. So we've got some in the UK, but they've got them over there as well. There's one in I apologize for my Dutch. Kartsuvel, which is the nearest little town. It's only a couple of minutes away. You can probably walk there actually. And you can get lodges there for like a week. Really reasonable. And again, you sort of got a 3-bedroom lodge then and you can self-cater. And that's quite easy to do. And also at Disneyland Paris, you've got Village Nature. Which is like the Centre Parks, Disney joint holiday village thing, which looks awesome. And I'm a big UK Centre Parks fan. I am a Centre Parks fangirl. And so I think if I was going, that is where I would pick personally.
Yeah.
I
mean, you've got hotels in Mont-Laval. But I guess the negative with staying outside of Disney is your park tickets aren't obviously included. So you've obviously got to...
And your magic hour.
Kind of, you wouldn't get your magic hours either. So you'd have to kind of maybe work out what your budget is and then figure out how much it is, because you've obviously got 2 parks and then you've obviously got them figure out your hotel stay.
Yeah,
so,
see if it's worth it.
You
need a Kev spreadsheet on the go to add it all up.
I love a spreadsheet. Hey, come on. It helps. It really does. I know. Oh, my days. What's happening to me? What is happening?
So basically, both have got various options depending on your family setup, your budget, and what you want to do and what you prioritize. And if you just want a bed for a night, you can absolutely get an off-site cheap hotel.
So it's easier than trying to figure out going to Walt Disney World, because that's like you need like a university course on that.
Yeah, let's fast pass tickets and Genie, whatever we've called it now, we've changed it again, haven't we? Yeah.
You mentioned fast pass, so in terms of like queue systems, what's Efteling like for their queuing?
So I don't know if I've always been lucky or if this is just the way it is, but I've been in May and I've been in January. So they're probably off peak times really. And I've been midweek. And I've never had any issues with queues. They've been really short. They've got an app, which is actually really, really accurate in terms of telling you the queue times. It's not some random figure like some parks do, looking at nobody, Merlin. And that's really helpful for planning your day. They do not have at Efteling a fast track queue. There is no fast track option at all. So everybody is the same. There's a disability queue. So there's that, if you've got additional needs and things like that, you can be accommodated. That's no problem. But in terms of just getting on the rides normally, there is no queue jump system at all. So when I've been, that's been great because, the queue is the queue and you don't suddenly see a load of people who've paid a bit more getting on before you.
I like that, yeah.
Couldn't say if you went on the busiest day at Efteling, you then obviously have no option to throw money at the problem and just go, right, I'm going to get my kids on this quite quickly because they are not in the mood today. You don't have that option.
Yeah.
I think it would be one of those where you'd just go, well, maybe we're just not going to do that today. And we're going to go and, explore some of the other parts of the park and things like that.
True.
But it's for me, it's nice. I'm not a big fan of the fast pass system. I think generally as enthusiasts we're not, because it annoys us that you can just pay more and then just get straight to the front.
Creates a class system, doesn't it, at theme parks? I don't think it needs, but that's a topic for another time. So what Disneyland Paris what they used to do, was you'd bring your park ticket and it'd scan it through the machine and it would give you a time to come back. You'd go to Big Thunder Mountain, you'd scan your park ticket through, it would say come back at 11 to 11:30, and then you go round that, you'd queue for about 5-10 minutes to get on Big Thunder Mountain, because that was your allotted queue time. That was because that was in your park ticket, and I think people sometimes missed it.
Why did we get rid of that?
Well, money talks, unfortunately. Unfortunately now there is no free fast pass system at Disneyland Paris. It's it's kind of like very much similar to what Merlin have at the minute, where it's like your one shot things, or you can group them all into a certain package. So that is the downside now, is that you either queue or you now have to pay.
Right, we've been discussing this quite a while. I'm going to move it on and get to the crux of things, which I guess is the price and how the two compare.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be no surprise to anyone that Disney is a more expensive park to visit than Efteling because it's Disney, and
yeah,
you kind of expect it. So just looking at it here, roughly, at this time of year, you've got £76 to £107 per person for a one park or a two park entry ticket, 1 day ticket to Disneyland Paris. So it's not a cheap day out. It's if you go for the two parks, which you would, you're not going to just go in one, really, are you? You're talking nearly £110 per person for a ticket. Twos and unders are free. But that's not the only way to do it. Obviously, if you, like you say, you can book a hotel package, and then you're not paying that day rate, and you've got to knock that day rate off your hotel price, really, and then you kind of get a feel for how much things are. Efteling, just for comparison, is sort of £43 per person at the same time of year. So it's
for
kind
what
of
you
half
get
the
in
price. Yeah.
You know,
You're not getting two parks, you're getting one, but you're getting one big park.
but what you're getting is still what you're getting is still worth it.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's you will not be disappointed if you go to Efteling, unless you want to go and be in the Disney bubble and meet Disney characters. That's the thing. You obviously cannot replicate that there.
Yeah.
Also, I think interestingly for Efteling, threes and unders are free. So if you have a 3-year-old, like we both do, they are free. So again, it's just another ticket that you're not paying for. So we need to go before their birthdays. Take
Quickly.
advantage of that.
Also, we've not mentioned the elephant in the room either,
yeah.
and that's the Walt Disney Studios. At the moment, obviously, there's a lot of work going on at Walt Disney Studios.
Yeah.
Fixing it, and if you are paying what you're paying to go to Disneyland Paris, the studios is going through a huge transformation. Obviously, it's going to be Disney Adventure World. So at the minute, you're obviously not getting everything that you're going to get in the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, you're going to have 2 parks. But the problem is, I think always with Disneyland Paris was you had the beautiful Disneyland Park on one side, and then you got a Studios Park that was just plonked there as a Disneyland Paris needs a second gate. So let's just do this on the cheap. Yeah. Bam, here you go. It has a second gate, and then you're paying more now because there's 2 parks to go to. So if it was me, I think in a few years' time, you'll have 2 parks to go to, that will be complete and not always a construction site, unfortunately, as it has been like the last few years.
It'll be nice when it's finished.
It'll be nice when it's finished.
Yeah. Would you just maybe go for the 1 park ticket even? Would you even bother getting a 2 park ticket at the moment?
Well, that's the problem, is because the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is in that park.
Yeah. You're basically paying.
So I'm paying to go on my favorite rides, unfortunately. Because I will see it and I walk past and I can see in the distance calling me in, So I think, for the minute, you'll be, if you do know, it's different, because you go with the expectation knowing it's still a working construction site still. They're having to fix something that was, it's now 22 years old and still trying to be solved. So I think you're not gonna you're gonna spend more time in Disneyland Park than in Walt Disney Studios.
Definitely something to bear in mind. Yeah, and like you say, if you're not
definitely
aware,
worth bearing that in mind.
It could be disappointing if you get there and you're like, why are there cranes everywhere and trucks? But it'll be nice when it's done.
Absolutely.
I think we've pretty much covered everything that these 2 parks have to offer against each other. One more thing to mention, of course, is getting to both of them, and they are much of a muchness on that. So personally, for me, my favoured thing to do is to get a ferry from Dover to, if I'm going to Efteling, get Dover to Dunkirk. It's a bit quieter than Calais, and you can drive to Efteling in a couple of hours. It doesn't take long at all. Very nice, easy roads to drive on. A lot of people get a bit panicky about driving abroad. Don't be. honestly, if you can drive in this country, you can drive in France and Belgium and Holland because they are so much easier to drive on than
The
ours.
roads are better.
They are. They just work,
The
and they're just
roads
so
are
much
better.
less crowded. It's such a nice, pleasurable experience to drive on European roads. You can take the Eurotunnel. I don't do that because I don't like the thought of being underwater in a tunnel.
Okay.
Just add it to the list of things that Bex doesn't like. But yeah, that's a very, quick, easy, cost-effective way to get over to France. And you obviously it puts you very close to Disneyland, but you can also drive to Efteling very easily from there. And you could go a Eurostar, do the same thing. That's the more expensive way of doing it, just as a train passenger. And you used to be able to go right to Disneyland Paris itself, didn't you? Direct.
Yeah.
But they
before
it.
COVID hit, and you could get your direct train from St Pancras in London.
Yeah.
We never used to. We'd go to Ebbsfleet because it was a lot quieter, and you get the train from Ebbsfleet and you just direct through. Yes, it's more expensive, but you're not having to change at Lille and get another train get off there, and then the direct train was just perfect for that. Unfortunately, they don't do a direct train anymore, and the Ebbsfleet station is still closed. Unless someone corrects me otherwise. So we've been driving to Paris, and actually driving is very straightforward. Unfortunately, you do have to go on the Channel Tunnel.
You could go on the boat.
I don't like boats. I'm the opposite. I don't like being on the water. I don't mind being under it. I don't like being on it, on a ferry.
So if we ever go to Disneyland Paris or Efteling, we'll meet each other there. You'll go your way, I'll go my way.
I mean, you can fly to Charles de Gaulle and there's a shuttle bus from Charles de Gaulle that takes you to Disneyland Paris as well. So there are 3 kind of ways of doing it. With a family, driving is actually easier. I was worried about how the kids would be in the car, but actually it's so much easier in some ways because you can bring all your luggage with you.
Yeah.
I can bring my suitcase with snacks in. I keep mentioning this, but it's such a great tip to remember. So with your car, if you've got a nice big car like we have, we're a family of 5, big car, you got everything you need.
You can also fill up on very cheap French wine for the way back. It's just another bonus.
I'm not a wine person, but if you are, that absolutely. I've done all 3. I've actually flown and got the train, but driving was my favorite actually of all 3 methods of doing it. And you actually think you think in your head, but it's so much longer. But actually, if you include waiting at the airport, the time you've got to get to the airport, the waiting, and then when you get off the airplane, you've got to get your luggage and you've got to go through security and all that. It works out very similar because even the shuttle bus is still about 40 minutes from Charles de Gaulle to Disneyland. So you've got to add that in as well. I'm
definitely a big fan of driving. You can fly to Efteling as well, like Eindhoven Airport. That's really not far from Efteling. There's cheap flights there, but I would not do it. I would always drive. There's other options from the east of England as well. You can get a slightly longer ferry from Harwich, or even the really long like overnight ferry from Hull. But that's quite an expensive way of doing it, but quite nice. You just get to sleep on the boat and stuff like that. Well, you wouldn't like it. You don't like boats.
No, don't. I guess with Efteling, if you're driving, you're not that far from Germany.
No.
So if you're smart to think, hang on a minute, we could fit a trip to Phantasialand in here.
I've done it on cheap occasions. There's a very convenient holiday village which is positioned almost equidistantly between Efteling and Phantasialand, and it's got it's an old Centre Parks which has been bought by Landor, and it's got a swimming pool and water slides and a lazy river and all that kind of stuff, and your own little lodges and a farm, and it's very cheap. And you can get to both Efteling and Phantasialand within about an hour from it.
There you go.
That is my little. I almost don't want to say it because I don't want everyone cutting on and making it really expensive. But it's called Landau. You'll find it. And it's if you want to do both parks, it's definitely very, very achievable to do it that way.
And you've also got Parc Asterix as well, near to Disneyland Paris, because you always kind of drive past it when you're driving down. So to get to Disneyland. So you do have another theme park close by. So if you're in, and actually Parc Asterix is good. Actually, I think people forget because you've got Disneyland right there, but actually Parc Asterix does have some really great coasters as well. Yeah. So
just not Goodric's. The sigh of disappointment at the mere mention of its name.
Yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
I think that's it. We've both made our cases. We've both got our favourites, clearly, and we both need to go to each other's. So Disneyland Paris hasn't been somewhere I've been. My daughter, I've always felt it's been a little bit too young. But it's on our cards, and it's something that we consider. But then every time Efteling gets in my head, and I'm like, no, I need to go there again instead. And I know that for you, Kev, Efteling's really super high on your priority list.
Absolutely.
Somewhere to go. And I was sending you sort of abusive WhatsApps about why you've booked Disneyland Paris again rather than booking Efteling.
If I wasn't moving house, I would be booking a trip in for sure. I think for the price point for what you get at Efteling and what you're actually getting, I think is just that perfect mix, isn't it? That theme park is a perfect mix of, roller coasters and dark rides and top tier theming and
a little bit of magic
for all ages, and it's magical, and for the price you're paying, what you're getting. And I think that's why it's so good, because I think it's that unexpected, oh my goodness, look at this, and that's here. And I would love to do a bit of a discussion about this on another episode, talking about how is it that some of these European parks like Efteling, like Europa Park, Phantasialand, how is it that they are able to produce this kind of top tier immersive theming, and some of our parks in the UK just seem to struggle? How is it? I think it's for a future discussion. I think it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
To talk about that, and just think how is that even? How is it possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do see it all over Europe. And what we also see, which we come back to, which is where we started, is the 365 opening, which is the whole reason we're talking about this, is because we can't do these visits in this country at the moment. So this is a great option if you do want a winter theme park fix. Both parks are a great option for you. But it's over to you. You tell us, what do you think, Disneyland Paris or Efteling? Which would be your pick for a family winter theme park session? And that's it. That's our cases made. We're going to be back next week. We've got loads more things to discuss. We've always got something to talk about. There's always something happening and something that we can chat about. So do join us then. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to give us a little like and a rating. It really does help us. And don't forget to subscribe as well, so that you know when we release a new episode. For now, though, we've been Parkcast.
Parkcast, the UK's original theme park podcast.